You can say I love you 1,000 times and still leave a man feeling empty, but show him the right things and he'll never question your love again. Because for men, it's not always about what you say, it's about what you do when no one's watching. When it comes to relationships, men aren't always moved by grand romantic gestures or repeated declarations of love. What often goes unnoticed is how deeply a man appreciates consistency, far more than just the occasional "I love you." While those three words have power, they lose meaning when they're not backed by consistent action. Men are wired to pay attention to patterns. They want to know if what you say matches how you show up. When someone says, "I love you," but then disappears emotionally during hard times, or becomes unpredictable in mood or behavior, the words lose their impact. Love becomes real to a man when he sees that you're the same person on a Tuesday morning as you were on that romantic Sunday night. It's about emotional dependability. It's about whether he can count on you, not just when everything feels good, but when things are complicated or inconvenient. A man doesn't always know how to ask for this. He may not even be able to articulate it, but he feels it. He notices the difference between someone who loves with her words and someone who loves with her patterns. When you're consistently kind, supportive, emotionally present, and stable in the way you treat him, that gives him the sense of safety he rarely admits he needs. Men are often expected to be the rock in the relationship, but even the strongest people lean on something. Consistency is that something. It makes him feel like he doesn't have to look over his shoulder, like he doesn't have to constantly earn your affection or chase after emotional validation. Consistency also builds a deeper kind of attraction, the kind that doesn't burn out when the honeymoon phase ends. It creates a rhythm in the relationship that feels like home. Men are drawn to women who make love feel safe, not chaotic. This doesn't mean you have to be perfect or never have a bad day, but it does mean that the way you express love isn't a roller coaster. You don't pull away when you're upset and flood him with affection when you're happy. You're not unpredictable with your moods in a way that keeps him on edge. You're grounded. And that grounding becomes something he values more than any poetic love letter or dramatic profession of feelings. When a man finds consistency in the way someone loves him, that's when he starts to open up more, invest more, and feel like he's found something real. Because no matter how independent or strong a man is, deep down he wants to know that the person beside him is someone who won't change with the wind, that the love she gives is steady, that it's not conditional on how exciting life is at the moment, but that it remains even in the quiet, boring, or messy parts of life. That level of emotional reliability is what separates fleeting romance from lasting partnership. Men don't always say it, but respect matters to them more than anything else in a relationship. It's something they feel on a deep level, often even more than love. When a man feels respected by the woman he's with, he feels valued for who he is, not just for what he provides or how much he gives. Respect is shown in subtle, everyday moments. It's in the way you speak to him when you're frustrated. It's in the way that you speak to him when you're frustrated. It's in how you treat him around others, especially in public when people are watching. Men are sensitive to this even if they don't verbalize it. If he feels like he's constantly being corrected, dismissed, or talked down to, especially in front of other people, it cuts deeper than any argument behind closed doors. A man can tolerate disagreements, but disrespect leaves a scar. He wants to feel like the person beside him believes in him, even when he's not getting everything right. Respect doesn't mean blind admiration or letting everything slide. It's not about pretending he's perfect. It's about recognizing his effort and honoring his intention, even when the outcome falls short. Men want to feel like their effort counts for something, that trying matters. When he makes decisions, even small ones, and you trust him instead of second guessing everything he does, he feels capable. And when a man feels capable in your eyes, he becomes better. He starts stepping up more. He starts leading with more confidence, not because he has to, but because he feels safe doing it. Respect empowers him to grow into the man you already believe he can be. It also shows up in how you talk about him when he's not around. Men may never find out exactly what's being said, but they feel the energy of it. If you speak about him with admiration or pride to others, it creates a powerful sense of connection, even without him hearing the words. On the other hand, if you regularly complain about him to friends or family, or make him the punchline of jokes, he starts to feel small in the relationship. That creates emotional distance. Respect is the bridge that holds the emotional connection together, especially during rough patches. Even in private moments, your tone matters. When you give feedback, if it comes from a place of genuine care rather than control, he hears you differently. He doesn't shut down, he listens. Because what a man wants more than being told he's loved is to feel like the woman beside him sees his worth, that she recognizes his strength and effort, even when he's not perfect. That she doesn't try to shrink him, but instead holds space for him to grow. That kind of respect is rare, and when a man feels it, he won't want to let go of the woman who gives it. Men are often taught to be strong, silent, and emotionally contained. From a young age, they receive subtle messages that vulnerability is weakness and that showing emotions makes them less masculine. So when a man does open up emotionally, when he shares his fears, doubts, or pain, it's not something he does lightly. It takes trust, and it's a sign that he feels safe enough with you to lower his guard. In those moments, what he needs most isn't advice, correction, or even a solution. What he craves is presence. Just someone to sit with him in that space without rushing to fix it, judge it, or minimize what he's feeling. When a man is vulnerable, the most powerful response is quiet understanding. It's the way you listen without interrupting, the way you make space for him to feel without making him feel like less of a man for doing so. This level of support means more to him than hearing "I love you," because in his world many people can say those words, but very few can sit with him when he's not at his best, when he doesn't have all the answers, when he's not performing or providing. That's when he's truly watching how you treat him, when he's in pieces, not when he's polished. If you respond with patience instead of panic, with warmth instead of withdrawal, he learns that your love is safe, that it's not dependent on him being strong all the time, that he's allowed to be human with you. That kind of emotional safety is rare for a man, and when he finds it, it becomes more valuable than any romantic gesture or phrase. Supporting a man during vulnerability also means resisting the urge to take over or make it about you. Sometimes, in an attempt to help, partners say things like, "I know exactly how you feel," or "You should just do this instead." But what helps more is letting him feel seen. A simple acknowledgement, "That sounds really heavy," or "I can imagine that's been hard," can go further than a long-winded speech. He doesn't want to be rescued, he just wants to be respected in his pain. Your calm presence becomes an anchor in his storm. There's a moment that often happens. After he's been vulnerable and you've responded with grace, he relaxes. Not just physically, but emotionally. He begins to trust you on a deeper level, not just as a partner, but as someone who truly gets him. And that moment, that emotional intimacy, becomes a turning point, because a man may not say it out loud, but when he finds someone who doesn't flinch in the face of his rawness, who stays steady instead of shrinking away, He knows he's found something worth holding on to. That kind of support speaks louder than love ever could. There are things men do every single day that often go unnoticed. Not because they're grand or flashy, but because they're subtle and routine. It might be the way he checks to make sure you've eaten, or the way he notices when you're tired and quietly takes over something so you don't have to. It could be something as small as making sure your car has fuel, fixing something around the house without being asked, or walking on the street side of the sidewalk without making a big deal out of it. These aren't gestures men perform to win applause. They do them because it's their way of showing care, responsibility, and love. But when those little efforts go unacknowledged for too long, something shifts. He may not say anything, but inside he starts to feel invisible. And for a man who's really trying to show up for you in the only way he knows how, that quiet invisibility can slowly erode his sense of value in the relationship. Men aren't usually the ones asking for validation, but they need it just as much as anyone else. Not necessarily through big thank yous or dramatic appreciation, but through subtle recognition. A moment where you say, "I saw that," or "Thank you for doing that. I noticed." It tells him that what he does matters, even the things that aren't loud. And for men, feeling seen is the foundation of emotional connection. It's easy to praise someone when they do something extraordinary, but love lives in the ordinary. It's in how he tries to make life smoother for you without expecting credit. When you notice these small things and express genuine appreciation, you're not just boosting his ego, you're showing him that you value who he is, not just what he gives. There's also an emotional cost when appreciation is absent. A man might start to wonder if what he's doing even makes a difference. He might begin to pull back, not because he loves you less, but because he feels like his efforts go into a void. And no one wants to keep pouring energy into something when they feel like it doesn't count. But the opposite is also true. When a man feels appreciated, he multiplies that energy. He becomes even more generous, more thoughtful, more engaged. Not because he's trying to earn love, but because he feels secure in it. Appreciation fuels a man's desire to give more, love deeper, and stay fully invested in the relationship. This kind of validation doesn't require grand gestures. Sometimes it's just looking him in the eye after he's done something for you and offering a smile, a soft thank you, or a little gesture of physical affection. Those moments might seem small, but they're incredibly powerful, because in them a man hears something even louder than "I love you." He hears, "I see you." And that is something he'll carry with him long after the words fade. One of the most underrated things men appreciate in a relationship is freedom without punishment. That means being trusted to have space, to think, to breathe, to spend time alone or with friends, without being made to feel guilty or disloyal. Many men live under the weight of silent expectations, where taking time for themselves is misinterpreted as neglect or emotional distance. But the truth is, healthy relationships are built not just on connection, but on autonomy. When a man feels like he's allowed to be his full self, without needing to justify every moment or explain every decision, that freedom becomes a deep form of respect. It tells him that you don't just love him, you trust him. Who's looking after Kips? Trust isn't just about whether or not he's faithful, it's about believing in his character, his values, and his intentions. It's giving him the benefit of the doubt instead of jumping to conclusions. When a man says he needs time to focus on something, his work, a personal project, even just a quiet moment, you show your belief in him by letting that space exist without flooding it with fear, suspicion, or control. That kind of space is not a threat to intimacy. In fact, it strengthens it. Because when a man feels trusted, he's more likely to come back closer. more open, more grounded. On the other hand, when every action he takes is met with doubt, interrogation, or emotional withdrawal, he starts to feel like he's living under constant surveillance. And in that environment, even love starts to feel like pressure. He begins to anticipate conflict in moments that should feel easy. He gets quieter, more reserved. Not because he's hiding anything, but because he's walking on eggshells. That emotional suffocation doesn't make him more devoted, it makes him more distant. Men don't always know how to explain this need because they're afraid it will be taken the wrong way. They might say they're busy or tired or just need a moment, but what they really mean is that they want to breathe without being punished for it. And when a woman allows that with grace, when she doesn't guilt trip him or pull away emotionally as a form of protest, he notices. He feels the difference. She becomes someone who understands his nature, who doesn't try to cage him, but trusts that he'll always return because she gives him something worth returning to. Freedom, when it's given with love instead of fear, deepens connection instead of weakening it. It creates a relationship that doesn't just survive in closeness, but thrives in balance. When a man feels that his partner respects his independence, he doesn't just feel free, he feels loyal, not out of obligation, but out of genuine appreciation for the rare kind of love that doesn't cling or control, but instead gives him the space to choose her again and again, not because he has to, but because he wants to. There's a quiet difference between being needed and being desired, and for a man that difference means everything. Being needed can feel like a duty, a responsibility, a role he's expected to play. It can be fulfilling, sure, but over time it starts to feel transactional. He's needed to pay bills, needed to solve problems, needed to provide emotional stability. And while men often step into these roles willingly and even proudly, they eventually start to crave something more raw, more personal, more affirming. They want to feel wanted, not for what they do, but for who they are. They want to feel chosen, desired, like someone is magnetically drawn to them, not out of obligation, but out of genuine attraction and emotional pull. And this kind of desire doesn't always come in words. It comes in energy, in body language, in the way you look at him when he walks into the room, in the way you flirt with him, even after years together. It's not about seduction, it's about admiration. Desire makes a man feel alive in a way that nothing else can. When he senses that you want him, not just love him, not just need him, he feels seen on a deeper level. It taps into something primal, something unspoken. That look you give him when he's not even trying, when he's just existing in his natural state, that hits differently than any compliment ever could. It tells him that you don't just love the idea of him, you're still drawn to his essence. And that, for a man, is one of the greatest emotional experiences. It's one thing to be valued for being responsible or supportive. It's another thing entirely to be desired for just being who he is, without performance. This type of desire doesn't need to be loud. Sometimes it's the subtle touches throughout the day, the way your hand lingers a little longer, the playful teasing, the moments when you initiate affection, not just physically, but emotionally too. When you tell him what you admire about him without waiting for a special occasion. When you let your guard down and allow your own feminine energy to invite his masculine energy to rise, not through pressure, but through presence. These moments remind him that he's not just there to be useful, he's wanted, and that shifts everything for a man. In relationships, especially long-term ones, it's easy to slide into roles. He does this, you do that. The dynamics become routine, and attraction can slowly fade into expectation. But when a woman makes the effort to break that rhythm, to remind him that she doesn't just rely on him but still wants him, something reignites. He starts to look at her differently too. He becomes more affectionate, more invested, more protective, because desire is reciprocal. When a man feels wanted, he wants to give more of himself, not because he's trying to earn anything, but because he's inspired to connect more deeply. Men often don't verbalize this need. They'll show up, provide, support, and play their part. But underneath all of that, they're wondering, does she still see me? Does she still feel drawn to me? Does she touch me because she wants to, or because she feels she should? Those questions linger, even if they're never spoken aloud. And when the answer comes in the form of authentic desire, it hits him hard. It's not just about attraction, it's about emotional safety. When he knows he's wanted, he feels free to be vulnerable, to open up more, to show the parts of himself that go beyond the surface, because desire isn't just about the physical, it's about connection. It tells him, you are enough just as you are, and I still choose you. This kind of energy, when maintained, keeps a relationship vibrant. It doesn't take grand gestures or dramatic changes, just consistent, genuine expressions of want. Without strings, without strategy, just pure presence. A man never forgets the woman who made him feel like he was still worth desiring, even after the newness wore off. And that feeling lasts longer than any romantic phrase or planned moment ever could. Because desire, real desire, speaks to the part of him that just wants to be seen, chosen, and loved, not out of necessity, but out of undeniable, irresistible pull. When it comes to love, words are easy to say, but they're not always what leaves the deepest mark. For men, it's not the phrase, I love you, that lingers the longest. It's how you show up. It's the quiet consistency in your presence, the respect you give when no one's watching, the way you hold space when he lets down his guard. It's the appreciation for the small things, the freedom you allow without strings attached, and the desire you still show long after the honeymoon phase fades. These are the things that speak to his soul more powerfully than any declaration ever could. Because when a man feels seen, respected, trusted, supported, appreciated, and wanted, not just as a provider but as a person, that's when he knows he's truly loved. Not through words, but through energy, presence, and emotional truth. And that's the kind of love he never forgets, never takes for granted, and never wants to let go of,